Mazel tov to Harav Hagon, Marbitz Torah, La'alofim, U'Lerevavis, Rabbi Eliyahu Shlita, and all of the hundreds and thousands of Talmidim finishing Masechta Shabbos, starting Be'ezer Hashem Masechta Eruvin. Especially, I want to give a special congratulations and Mazel tov to all of our shared mutual Talmidim, all of those of you who learned the daily Daf Yomi with Rabbi Eliyahu Shlita, and you also join my daily shir in the Rambam's Yada Chazaka, one Perek a day, which we learn together, Baruch Hashem, every day on the yeshiva.net. Mazel tov to all of you. Kol mechayel el chayel. And remember what the Shabbos Shalmi writes at the end of Masechta Shabbos. He explains the last story in the Gemara that Rabbi Bar Reb Huna was sitting in the tub, ba'avne demai, in a tub of water, and he was measuring it. And Ula said, you can only measure for the sake of a mitzvah, not stam to measure water in a tub. It's not a mikveh. And he says, I'm a sasik ba'alma. I'm just keeping myself busy. I'm not seriously measuring it. So Shabbos Shalmi says, that the Gemara says in Baba Kama, that Mayim is Torah and Mayim el Torah. So he says he's sitting in Torah on Shabbos, and he's measuring the Torah. He's measuring the size of Torah. So Ula says, Arucha me'eretz midah. It says by Torah, Arucha me'eretz midah rechav. Torah doesn't have a midah. Torah doesn't have a shir. Medida the mitzvah. By a mitzvah there's medidas. There's a shir for esrog, there's a shir for sukkah, there's a shir for lulav, there's a shir of mikvah, there's a shir kazayas, there's manim, there's gedorim, there's shiurim. But Torah is beyond the midah. Torah is ein soif mamish. It's infinite. It's chachmas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's ein soif. There's no midah in Torah. He says, Anam is asik ba'alma. What I'm measuring is that I am so asik in the world, I am so stressed and overwhelmed with the tirdis, with the hustling and bustling of the world, that I don't feel I have the time and the mental space to be able to be matzliach in Torah. I'm looking at the measurement of how big and how gigantic and how infinite Torah is, and I realize how difficult it is for me with the asakim in the world to really be able to master and be matzliach in Torah. That's the end of Shabbos. Shabbos is the one day we were given as a gift to be able to separate from the misasik ba'alma and completely submerge ourselves in the avna de maya and mayim el Torah and ashreichem v'toiv lechem shezechisim, that every single day you carve out an hour of the day or 8 minutes of the day or whatever the shir is, to be able to go into the avna de maya, to be able to go into the sacred, beautiful, amazing, holy, pure and true world of Torah. Mazel tov, mazel tov.
There's an incredible medrash found in the introduction to the Ein Yaakov. It's also found in the Maharal and the Sivas Olam. And here's how the medrash goes. The medrash says that one day in the base medrash, Benzoma, they were having a machlokes as to what is the most important line in Torah. So Benzoma gets up and says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Good one. Everyone's like, yeah. Ben Nanas gets up and says, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Everyone's like, ooh. This is taking place like today. They'd be like, this is when I was in base medrash, people would be trash talking. Back then they were much more respectful. Shimon Pazi gets up and says, it's a kevas echad taseh b'boker v'es a kevas hasheni taseh ben harbayim. Now, since there's no song made up for this one, it probably didn't have a chance. But like the good the underdog that it was, the sleeper in the first round, one of the rabbis stood up and declared the maskan of the verdict follows Rishon ben Bazi. That's the medrash. It's fascinating, right? Like, what are they picking lines? What are they like picking like yearbook lines? Like, what's your favorite one? And Benzion was like, well, my favorite, I love Shema. And Bananas is like, well, I love V'ahavta. And Shimpaz is like, I know they're wonderful, but like, really the Korban Tamid, like that speaks to me. Like, that's what's going on in the basement. Like, what else are they doing? This is, you understand that, like, these are the greatest people that ever walked the faith. I mean, we're talking about Tanaim and Amorai, and we're talking about people that were deciding how they were explaining Torah, they were learning, they were changing the. This is what they're doing. They're fighting over which one's better. What in the world does this medrash even mean? So, when you look at the things that we do in life, sometimes we do things that are complete and utter failures. And it boggles my mind that we keep on doing them. One of the greatest failures of activities that we engage in is what's called resolutions. A resolution is when somebody's at a period of time and for whatever reason they decide they want to do something else. They're sitting at Yom Kippur and they say, this is it, right? This is Hashana. This is going to be my year. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's Yom Kippur, it's 30. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be better to my wife and my kids. I'm going to learn Shas, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to run 2 marathons. Like, I'm in. And in the beginning, like, it gets good, and then you do it, and then after a while, like, it fizzles out, and you have a couple good days, and you go back. I'm going to lose. I'm really going to lose weight. I'm really going to lose weight this time. This is for real. Right? Everyone always loses weight tomorrow, right? I'm really going to lose weight. No, I'm going to start tomorrow morning, just past the dessert. And like that first few days, it's like amazing. And then like after a week, it's like, by Sukkot, people are like, did I even have a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? When you look through the stats, at least in America, they did the research. 60% of Americans make resolutions every holiday season. Guess how many? Remember, a resolution is something you make for yourself. 8% have any lasting value. Why? What? You're standing at a crossroads. You're at beginning of a year, maybe a funeral or a wedding, at a moment of inspiration. You make a decision. You make a change. Why can't we seem to follow through? And the answer comes down to understanding how our brain works. Our brain functions off a concept called neuroplasticity. And what that means is it's like as if your brain it's like plasticine, it's flexible, it's malleable. It's like, in a way, like you're playing with putty. It's not like that, but it's like that. The way our minds work is that within our brains is billions and billions of neurons. And whenever we have a thought, what takes place is neurons start to fire and they create like a wire together. Neurons that fire together, wire together is how the scientists explain it. So if I have a thought, what's really happening is 2 or 3 or 4 neurons are firing together. And the more those same neurons fire together, the stronger that connection gets until one day it's a rock solid connection and it becomes literally a piece of your brain. So the reason why I speak English isn't because I was born a genius in the English language and it just so happened to be that the Kadosh Baruch Hu was like, listen, I got a kid who speaks English. Where am I going to put him? He doesn't speak English that well, so I can't put him in England, that's for sure. You know what would be a good place to put him? The way he speaks? Brooklyn. And like, boom, there I was. I was born in Brooklyn. And I came out, I'm like, okay, let's polish off this English. No, I'm a regular kid. I came into this world. And when I came into this world, I had a brain. And the brain, thank God, was ready to make connections. And I grew up in an environment. And when I grew up, my mother looked at me and said, Charlie, and she pointed to a cup and said, cup. What was going on in my little brain was that in my brain, there was a word, cup. It was a sound, and then there was a picture, a cylinder. And what was going on in my little brain is that these 2 things were firing, and I heard it once, and like a cup, and then I heard it again, and then I heard it again, and then I heard it 4 million more times every day, 50, 60 times a day. You're growing up in America, you're in a Jewish home, you're always hearing cup and plate and food. It's all part of your life. And I'm hearing it. Every time I hear it, those connections get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then when you wake up one morning, you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, what's this thing? I'm not going like, can I Google it? I know it's a cup. And someone goes, how'd you know that? You go, I don't know. And if you break my head open and you would go into my head, you would see a connection under the word cup. You couldn't, if you knew it, I'll look for it. Had I been born in Israel, the same me, my mother said, Charlie, kos. I wouldn't even potentially know the word cup. I would know kos. Because wherever I am, the sounds that I'm hearing, the things that I'm seeing are creating thoughts. And those thoughts are creating connections. And those connections are changing who I am, how I think. The reason why I can speak a language is because they're just thoughts. The reason why I know how to get to work is because of the connections that I'm making. Everything that we do every day of our lives, whether we like it or we don't, everything we see, everything we hear goes into our brains. And if you hear them again and again and again, sometimes they fire once and it's a very thin line. Sometimes they fire. And at some point it becomes rock solid. You know why resolutions fail for? Because resolution is a destination. I want to lose weight. I want to learn Shas. I want to be successful. Destinations don't do anything for us. They don't change us. They just tell us where to go, but our brain doesn't know how to get there. You don't change. It's good to know where you want to go. But life isn't about getting something. Life is about becoming something. You don't change with goals. Goals direct you. You change with repetition. You change by doing things again and again and again and again. And every time you do it, the same things fire and they get stronger and stronger. You wake up one morning, you're like, what, that's just me? When you exercise every day again and again, you wake up one morning, you're like, what? This is what I do. It's who I am. I have this strength. I speak this language. I feel comfortable here. This is how I act. This is how I talk. It's not. It's repetition. That's why goals don't take you places. Habits take you places. If you want to change your life, the way you change your life is not by setting a resolution. It's by setting a ritual. When you do something every single day, you are changing your brain. And when you change your brain, you're changing yourself, and then you change what you get. This incredible medrash is not just like three tzaddikim picking their favorite line on a slow, afternoon in the base medrash, like, on a Tuesday in Teves. This incredible medrash is giving us the insights on how do you achieve godless. What's the most important pasuk in Torah? Benzion says, Shema Yisrael. You know what Shema Yisrael is? Shema Yisrael is Echad. It's Achdus Hashem. It's Yichud Hashem. It's being able to look out and feel like everything is the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ein od milvado. You have moments like that where you're walking down the street and you hear something, and you see something, and you can feel the Kodesh Baruch Hu's presence. It's in those moments that Benzoma is saying, this is what it means to be a Yid. It's that second. It's those moments when you walk around and you can see a clarity that everything is Hashem. And Bananas comes and goes, you know what really the moment, what the moments are? The moments are when we're connected in Klal Yisrael. When we're Vayicha and Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar, when Klal Yisrael stands as one. Those moments. And Shimon Pazi says, moments are amazing, but moments don't change you. You know what changes you? It's a keves echad taseh baboker. Every single morning, it's a keves echad, one keves. You don't go from 0 to 60. It's one every day. You don't go from, I don't know how to eat, I'm eating wrong, to I'm starving. I never ran. I ran 10 miles. I never learned 40 blot. One. It's a keves echad taseh baboker. It's 1,000,000 degrees in August in the Harary. They're not wearing shoes. The AC isn't on, and they're shechting that keves and they're bringing it up, and it's so hot. It's freezing cold in January, and the floor is stone in the base Hamikdash, and they're freezing. And the guy's like, really? You can't take a day off? And it snows. It's a random day in Adar, and they've done this 1,000,000 times, and there's no hoopla, and there's nothing going on, and Purim isn't yet. Purim didn't happen yet. Maybe it did happen, but either way. And they still do it in the morning, in the night, in the morning, in the night, in the morning, in the night. When the Jew has the strength to be consistent, even in the smallest things, you know what happens? They don't get the Korban Tamid. They become the Korban Tamid. You become the ritual. It's in your brain. It's who you are. That's the power of Daf Yomi. It's every day, every day, every day, every day. At some point, it's not about gaining the Gemara. It's about becoming the Gemara. It's who you are. It's how you breathe. It's how your day operates. You merge your brain with the Torah. It's the most incredible exercise for how to change. I want to give you a Mazel Tov. Masechta Shabbos, the second longest Masechta in Shas. There wasn't that like quick Siyum you're going to get in a little bit as you track through Moed and you get those Siyums. You feel amazing. This is the long. It's a carbon. That's what it was. You just engaged in the Talmud every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. But in particular, I want to give you a special shekach because you're in part of something very special. Stefanski, his enthusiasm, his approach, his ahava, who he is as a person, what he stands for, effort he puts into it. There's a reason why your group is exploding, not stam. It's not just because of the virus, because there's a lot of people doing it. It's because Stefanski's special. Because what he puts into it is unique, as he combines humor and how hard he works for it and who he is. It's all the package of what Torah stands for. And when you're engaged in a process with someone like this, you are not just learning the daf. You're learning orchas chayim. You're learning how to walk, how to talk, how to love learning. You're learning that Torah can be geschmack. You're learning that it's not pencils down. It could be the best part of your day. Your brain is learning that every day, so that after a while, that's how you see the world. But you know what's so credible about this group? And I want you guys to understand this and chazak ve'amatz, keep on rolling. You see, what happens is when you do something again and again, your mind conditions itself. But when you do something with people again and again, not only do you get the thing, you get the people. You are solidifying a real chavra. A chavra that is not bound together by an occupation, not bound together by a political party. You're not even bound together by a neighborhood in which you live in. This is a chavra bound together by things that are non-physical. You are bound together by the fire of Torah. A fire that doesn't know boundary. A fire that doesn't know virus. A fire that has been the torch that we've passed down from generation to generation since Moshe Rabbeinu came down that har. What you're doing here isn't just learning a daf gemara. What you're doing here is you are conditioning not just that fire to be part of your life, you're conditioning to do it with a chevra of Klal Yisrael. Not just one chevra in Klal Yisrael, with Klal Yisrael. From different backgrounds, different countries, different time zones. Because when you live in a space that is beyond time and space, like learning, you don't need to be around the corner from somebody. When your life surrounds and when the center of the day is that Gemara, the guy across can look very different, but at the end of the day, there's not much there. It's all the same. It's just a little bit on the outside, but truth is, we're all exactly alike. And my bracha to you is that you should continue. You should continue. Chazak, be strong. Don't give up. Don't get lost in Erevin. Erevin's tough. You're going to come out of it. Trust me. As soon as you cross Erevin, you've got like smooth sailing for a while. Don't lose. When you wake up in the morning too tired, fight to get there. When it's too hard on a weekend, fight to get there. It's a keves echad taseh b'boker. Because you know that your Kohen Gadol will be waiting for you. And when this chevra are committed to bring people in, to bring people on, to realize what it means to be part of Klal Yisrael, and to commit to always fighting to consistency, not only do you gain Gemara, it becomes a piece of you. It's how you see the world. It's how you breathe. It's how you eat. Kihem chayenu v'orech yamenu. It is the life in which you are. And there's nothing sweeter than that. Mazel tov on the Siyum. We should be zeiche. You should be zeiche to finish many more Siyum. We should be zeiche together to make Siyumim together, all of us, in Yerushalayim HaBenuya, with the smell of the Korban Tamid in our nostrils, singing and dancing with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash of Mashiach Tzidkenu. May it come in our days from here, Rabbi Aminu.
A tremendous mazel tov to Rav Eli and to Gans Klal Yisrael, because the 8-minute daf has become such a huge thing. I remember by the Siyum Shas in Eretz Yisrael, seeing Rav Eli and co, you know who you are, co, setting up and trying to get people on board and getting 1, then 10, then 50, then 100, then 1,000, and 5,000, and 10,000, and 15,000. Quite literally, thousands upon thousands of people are now learning Daf Yomi, which maybe would not have been learning. And it's not just impacted them, but impacted their entire families. It's such a huge thing of what's going on over here. You know, to go and prepare for such a thing. So Rav Eli Shkoyach, because I understand what it is to prepare for a Daf. It's not simple to go to prepare and to give over. But also, Yissocher to all the participants. And let this be a impetus to continue, to keep moving forward. And you know what? Sometimes you miss a little here, you miss a little there. That's okay. Stay on track. But maybe give one word of advice. Make sure if for some reason you missed a little bit, write down what you missed. Write down what you missed, and you come back to it. Keep steiging, keep learning, keep growing, keep being mezakeh Klal Yisrael. Mazel tov again to everyone who's involved, and to the family, and to the kinderlach. You know, the amount of nachas that the Rebbeinu Shalom is having from you being Messiahim, Mesechus Shabbos, is Le'ela U'Le'ela. I give you a bracha to go as we ended Mesechus Brachas with, to continue going Mechayel El Chayel, and Be'ez Hashem being Messiahim Gan Shas, Hatzlacha Rabba with Erevin.
I unfortunately do not participate in the shir of Rabbi Stefanski. But I've heard from multiple people how wonderful it is. And I have a Talmud here in Baltimore, Maryland, named Rav Gross, who is a Geshvar and a Chassid of Rabbi Eli's Shiurim, his Daf Yomi. And he asked me if I could go ahead and say a few words. And then Rabbi Eli Stefanski had contacted me personally and asked me if I'd just say a few words. And first of all, Yasher Koach, and Masechta Shabbos is a major accomplishment, and it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I hear from people all over the world how much they enjoy your shir. I'd just like to share two quick thoughts. And number one is that Rabbi Eli mentioned to me how there's a source of almost of camaraderie and almost of family, but to the people that participate in the shir all over the world. So it reminds me of a Gemara Masechta Yerushalmi in Chagiga. Yerushalmi says in Chagiga, Omer Meshu ben Levi, Yerushalayim habnuya ki ir shechubra lo yachtav. David HaMelech refers to Yerushalayim as the city shechubra lo yachtav that brings mechaber people. So the Yerushalmi comments, Ir shehu eiseh kol Yisrael chaveira me'ata afilu b'shayim eis hashana. Yerushalayim had an amazing ability, and that is it brought people together. And once it brought people together, that's the way it remained. So what the Yerushalmi means is as follows. 3 times a year, all of Klal Yisrael had to come up to Yerushalayim. There's not enough hotel space and not enough restaurants for everybody to be able to eat. So the Chacham said people will eat with each other. People from all of Eretz Yisrael would come to people Yerushalayim. They would all eat together. There was only one problem, and that is that there are people who are makbid to always eat things b'tahara, which means with kedushas kodshim, kedushas truma, even if they weren't kehanim, etc. But that a chumrah to eat kedusha, but to eat b'tahara. And the halacha is a person who's makbid on eat b'tahara, which means I'm not talking kosher, I'm talking tahara. So under normal circumstances, you can't eat with a person who's not makbid. But the Chacham said an amazing thing. He says when it comes to Shalosh Regalim, they relaxed this halacha and said you can eat with everybody. I mean, they were all kosher, but they said you don't have to worry about this chumrah, and therefore everybody ate with everybody else, and it created a meshunadika achdus. Because people, the way you get to relate with people, you eat together with them. So there was this barrier between Talmidei Chachamim and non-Talmidei Chachamim. Came to Shalosh Regalim, Sha'oiseh Kol Yisrael Chaverim. And then the Yerushalmi continues, Me'ata afilu b'shar yemei hashana. Once this bond was created, it lasted even beyond the Shalosh Regalim. And today, unfortunately, we do not have the Shalosh Regalim to go ahead and to create this bond. But we have something that creates a bond among people, and that's the Daf Yomi. And that is what Rav Meir Shapiro, in fact, had in mind, that when a Jew travels Yerushalayim and he gets to America, and he's been on a boat for who knows how long, and he comes to America, he walks into a shul, what daf are you holding on? And creates this bond. And our belly tells me that it has created a tremendous bond, almost like a family, between the people that all participate in this particular Daf Yomi. And therefore this is a kiyum of Yerushalayim Ki'ir Shechubra Lo Yachtov, that it keeps us together, keeps the people together, which besides the Talmud Torah, etc., that's a Meshunadik accomplishment in and of itself. And Techazachna Yedechem. The other ha'ara I like to say is that there's when we say the Hadran, this is a word that I heard from Zundel Kreuzer. When we say the Hadran, Kishem Shazartani L'Sayim Mesechta Shabbos, Kain Tazreni L'Askol L'Sayim Mesechta Svar Macher. That's the standard nusach. So he pointed out that there's an inconsistency in that statement. Kishem Shazartani L'Sayim, Kain Tazreni L'Haskol L'Sayim. So his point was it should be parallel. Either say Kishem Shazartani L'Sayim Mesechta Shabbos, Kain Tazreni L'Sayim Mesechta Acheres, or let it say Kishem Shazartani L'Haskol L'Sayim Mesechta Shabbos, Kain Tazreni L'Haskol L'Sayim Mesechta Acher. So he pointed out and he says that when a person starts a Mesechta and he starts a Mesechta, the Satan, the Yissocher, isn't nispoil, because a lot of people start and they don't finish. But when a person finishes a Mesechta, then the Yissocher sees this guy is serious. And therefore the Yissocher says, I got to go ahead and put in stumbling blocks that the person shouldn't continue. Therefore, Kishem Shasatani L'Sayim, Mesechta Shabbos. But now we all need a special Siyata D'Shmaya. Because they say the Satan, the Yissocher, is going to try to stop us. Kain Tazreni L'Haskil L'Sayim Mesechtas Acheres. You know, brachas Rabbi say that you all finished. Brachas is Geshmaka Mesechta it goes great. It's very negel lamaisa. Of course, there are difficult sugyas, as you should know. The sixth parak, Hilchos Birchos Hanen, and other parts of Brachos. They're mamish choshev, but it's not overwhelming. Masechta Shabbos is a lot different. You know, the world says Basar Shabbos, Basar Menucha. It's long. There's some difficult, complicated Masechtas, sugyas, Haitzah, and Bitzel Bishol, Atmona, Muktzah, and there's all sorts of Zushtos, the Tumah, V'Taira, etc. It's hard, but you made it. You finished Shabbos. That's no small deal. But now comes the acid test. Now comes Masechta Eruvin, which is much more difficult. And the Yissocher is going to be in there, hey, you ain't getting it. You know, throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel. You don't get this sugya, go on to the next sugya. It's not beyond your reach. And therefore, that's the bracha. Geshem shazatanu l'sayim Masechta Shabbos Kain Tazrenu Lahaskol Ulasayim Masechta Eruvin V'shar Kol HaMasechtas Ad Shenesayim Talmud Bavli B'mheira B'siyata D'Shmaya.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem. This is Benzion Klatzko. I want to wish a tremendous Mazel Tov to Rabbi Stefansky and the entire Chabura on the Siyum. Be'ez Hashem, you should be Yissocher to make many Siyumim together, give tremendous chizuk to each other, and Be'ez Hashem finish, learn, and know Shas. It should be a chus for you and your whole mishpacha. Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. This is Ari Bensoussan. Harary Shalom is making the representation of the Los Angeles Siyumim, and he asked me to be the one to, I guess, represent and to say a few words. So the Heilige Rabbi Ari Stefansky said that, look, you know, I do it for 8 minutes every single day. People can do it for 1 minute. It should be easy to see what I go through. And it's not true. I vehemently disagree. To be able to express our gratitude in 1 minute or less, at least in 8 minutes, you can talk your heart. But in 1 minute, anybody who can express their gratitude to the awesomeness of the Daf Yomi that Rabbi Stefansky has been given us, if you can do that in 1 minute, then I question the depth of that gratitude. But we only have this little time, and it's already at 50 seconds. So I just have to say this. I thank Reb Stefansky. We all thank the entire Chabura, but most of all, personally, I thank the Yidden who go on Zoom every single day. Like the Gemara here in Kufnun Beis says that there are different madregas of Yidden when it comes to Olam Haba, and there are different madregas of Reb Stefansky Daf Yomi listeners. There are those lazy ones like myself. I go on the app, I listen at my leisure. And then you have the Yidden who get up and on Zoom, their consistency. Because if we didn't have that Zoom sitting in front of Reb Stefansky, so then that spark in his eye would be dim just a little. But when he gets on and he says, "Good morning, Rabbi Isai," and he starts to schmooze, and that gives him power, that literally fills him full of that beautiful spark of giving over the Torah that enters into all of us and gets our neshamas lit up for the rest of the day. May it continue. May all of us become bigger Yidden. We're so much different now that we've all finished this Masechta and we're moving on. We're such bigger Yidden. Thank you so much to Rabbi Stefansky, to his Rebs and to his family, to all of our Rebbitzins, and to everybody who has given up to be able to be consistent in building our neshamas closer to Hashem. Thank you, Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov to Rebelli's Shir, and to all of you that have been privileged now to finish Maseches Shabbos and to begin Maseches Eruvin. It's a great accomplishment. And the daily study of Torah, Kiyem Chayenu V'orech Yameinu, gives us life and inspiration, and it really sets the whole day. It's the background for everything that we do. And it sanctifies the day. So again, I want to wish you congratulations on the achievement and a bracha v'atzlacha to continue and to be able to complete Shas and to grow. And we should all be well and hear good news one from another.